a bit more energetic. Ariana had only lost some strength and could quickly regain it, but Henry was seriously injured, so it would take a while for him to recover. Using her magical energy, Ariana lowered the barrier that she and Henry were in. After they touched the ground, Ezekiel walked over and connected the two barriers again. Ariana and Henry finally met up with them. Because both of them were very weak, Ezekiel took care of Henry and Ava looked after Ariana. They flew back on two flying swords because 4 people couldn't fit on the same sword as well. Ezekiel also told Ariana that Ivory wanted to leave with them, and since he thought it was a good idea, he agreed. He planned to let Ivory stay with Ariana to protect her. Ariana accepted that. In fact, she had the same idea earlier, but she was too worried about Henry at the time, so she didn't think further about it. She turned to look at Ivory and said, "Let me be honest with you. If you leave with us, you'll stay by my side. I'll be your master, and you will need to serve me. I won't enslave you or treat you badly. On the contrary, I can help you with your cultivation." Ariana continued, "However, you can't go outside all the time after you follow me. Normally, you'll stay in my telepathic eye space. After all, you can't let mortals know about your existence. We're living in a modern society now, so I won't let you out unless I need you. Can you accept that?" Ivory agreed without hesitation. "Sure, I can accept it." Even though she couldn't go out very often, she had had enough of her boring life at the bottom of the ocean. In addition, Ariana promised to help her with her cultivation. It was undoubtedly good news. After witnessing Ariana's abilities when she treated Henry, Ivory became her fan. Since Ivory accepted her terms, Ariana said nothing further. Before they left, Ivory pointed at those pieces of jade and jewelry around them and offered, "Oh, do you want these things? If you want them, take them away." The jewels were useless for Ivory, but she knew that they might be valuable for human beings. Ariana didn't notice the jewelry until now. Upon hearing Ivory's words, her eyes lit up. "Of course we want them," she exclaimed. Without delay, she put all the jewelry into her telepathic eye space, as if someone was going to steal them. There were many pieces of jewelry, which might be worth over $1 billion. It wasn't an exaggeration. After all, the jewelry was extremely valuable, especially the 2 diamonds, the size of an egg, and the 3 night luminescent pearls. Aster became a little anxious. He wanted to know whether she had found the evil immortal and successfully killed Ava and Henry, or whether she ran into Ava and got injured. Due to his worries, Aster asked Ajax to go into the mortal world to find her. Unfortunately, Zella had damaged Dauphine's phone when they came to catch her, so Ajax failed to get through to her. As a result, he became even more worried about his mother. Did something really go wrong? Ajax immediately decided to check Dauphine's records of booking at the hotel. Because they didn't have a house in Los Angeles, they always stayed in the hotel. Ajax quickly found where Dauphine had stayed, but he called the hotel and was told that she only stayed for 3 days and left on the 3rd night. No one knew where she went afterwards, because Dauphine didn't stay in a hotel again. Where did she go? How come they couldn't get through to her? Ajax didn't have the ability to check the surveillance cameras to know where his mother went, so he had no idea where she was right now. Therefore, because he couldn't find her, he could only return to the world of immortals to report the result to Aster. Since he was alone, he didn't dare to seek out Ava or Henry because he was no match for them. Before going back to the world of immortals, he tried to call Dauphine once more, but still couldn't get through to her. Back in the Bulbous family's house, Ajax reported the result to his father honestly. Aster was displeased. How could Dauphine disappear all of a sudden? Did something go wrong? Do you think something bad happened to my mother? Ajax asked. He was worried as well. Hard to say, muttered Aster. He didn't want Dauphine to be in trouble, but it seemed to be the case given the current situation. They all had a feeling that she had encountered something bad, but they had no idea what happened. Aster then told Ajax to visit the mortal world again. He didn't need to look for Dauphine, because he might not be able to find her. He just needed to stay outside for a few days to see whether he could get in touch with her on her phone. Afterwards, Ajax left the world of immortals again. Felix didn't know what was going on in Aster's family, but he sensed that something had to be wrong. He and his parents hadn't seen Dauphine for many days, and usually they often ran into each other. Besides, Ajax hurriedly went back and forth to the mortal world, as if something bad had happened. Anyway, Felix didn't bother to ask about it. He couldn't care less about Aster's family right now. Even if something bad really happened to them, he would only gloat over their misfortune. The next day was Monday, but Ariana didn't go to class. She asked for a longer leave of absence from her university, because Henry was in bad condition now. She needed to stay in the bungalow to take care of him. Only Zella and William went to work, while the others looked after Henry. However, Henry wasn't too weak to take care of himself. Even if no one stayed to look after him, he would be alright. But Ariana wanted to stay with him. After the attack, Ariana was very scared, so she wanted to spend more time with Henry. Ava and Ezekiel had the same feeling, so they understood Ariana, and besides, they never interfered in her decisions. The next day, Henry was about half recovered, but Ariana still didn't go to her classes. She had asked for a week's absence, so if nothing else happened, they could go to the world of immortals and take revenge after Henry rested for 2 more days. Ariana was frequently absent from her classes, but she still got good scores on exams, so her teachers allowed it. She could come and go as she wanted, and nobody would judge her. Such a straight-A student and talented businesswoman was an honor to their university, so she had privileges. At 2 o'clock,
or lower lows. Worthwhile meaning in your life is going to be found in the voluntary adoption of responsibility, voluntary self-sacrifice. That's the spirit of the functional psyche, family, and community. What does it mean to be a father? What does it mean to be a mother? You need to know very clearly what it is that you can do for your children in order to help them live a life that's adventurous and responsible.
I've distilled the decades of my experience as a researcher and clinical psychologist into the lessons every striving mother or father needs to learn. If you've ever thought about becoming a parent, or are a parent already, this series is for you. I sat down recently with many mums and dads to personally discuss the situations they were facing with their children.
Our 13-year-old, we spoiled the heck out of him.
My daughter came to tell us that her classmates were bullying her.
The question for me becomes, when do I pick him up and when do I make him pick himself up?
What lessons can you derive from today's discussion? How do you operate effectively as a father and as a mother in today's world? Well, you could say, if you wanted to play a sex stereotype, that a mother secures and a father encourages. You could say that a father is radically on the side of who the child could become, and a mother is more radically on the side of who the child is. And that's a nice dynamic, because when you're dealing with a child, you have to be happy and grateful for who they are and encouraging them to be the person they could become. Now, I think it's a mistake for the mother always to be the nurturer and the father always to be the person pushing forward. Both parents should play both roles, but that's a good way of considering the sex differentiation.
When it comes to nurturing and snuggling, it's more my role as opposed to when it's time to play or go outside or do things like that. That's more Nathan's department, which I find for me it is difficult to play with my kids. How do I sit down and play with instructs and not feel like I should be doing something else without feeling like I should be watching dishes. I should be putting things away.
In all likelihood, you're going to be a mother of small children for a much shorter time than you think and for a much smaller fraction of your life than you imagine. While you have little kids, time sort of slows, and it seems like it's always been that way, and it's always going to be that way, and that's not the case. You have little kids for a very short period of time, and it is a major mistake not to notice that and to appreciate it. It's the pathway to a future with the least regrets, to understand and be grateful for the opportunity that you have to care for your children while they're little, and to be as grateful as you possibly can for that, because it really is a privilege.
Just being a parent, nothing I was ever interested in prior to this really is worthy of my time or concern at this moment. I don't know if that will last forever, and I'm curious about how things like my career, the things I have been doing outside of the house, relationships, other things I'm involved in, now work into our lives. And I'm very open to the answer being, you sacrifice it.
In the first few months of life, a child has to be in very close contact with his or her mother. It's virtually impossible to give a true infant too much attention. In fact, I don't even know if it is possible. As the child becomes autonomous, can start doing things on his or her own, then you have to pull back in lockstep with the child's independence. And you might say, well, how do you know how fast to pull back? You really take your cues from the child. A mother or a parent acts as a zone of security and predictability and care for the child. So the child uses the mother, let's say, as a place of safety, and will come back for comfort, for attention, and then will go out into the world and play and interact until they hit an obstacle. completely autonomous life. And then if you've handled that properly and you've been the proper balance of security and encouragement, the child won't leave permanently because you'll establish an adult relationship with them and then a relationship with their children. And then you get to have your cake and eat it too. That's a good deal for everybody. If you're willing to lose your child as they adventure outward, you'll gain them back in an adult relationship.
How did you overindulge, do you think, exactly?
Well, we just gave him everything.
We spoiled the heck out of her. Because I grew up with nothing. And Jamie grew up in a household where things were love.
And we just don't want our 5-year-old to follow in the same footsteps. Like, see that as an example to grow as.
I've seen mothers who are at the beck and call of their 3-year-old son. That's a bad idea. Your son, God is that man, is a little God emperor of the universe and shouldn't conceptualize himself or herself that way. That's a good pathway to narcissism. Your best pathway forward as a mother is to not do for your child anything that your child can do for himself. That means putting up their shoes, or putting on their clothes, and cleaning up their rooms, and helping to set the table when they're old enough to help set the table.
One of the mistakes that parents make is they'll step in and do things quickly for the child instead of letting them learn. Now, at any given time, it's faster for you to dress your child, but you don't want to be dressing them when they're 7.
Everything you can do to bring the child into the realm of adult responsibility is exactly the sort of thing that you would do if you were reasonable and you were trying to boost what people now so casually call self-esteem. There's nothing that gives a person more esteem than to see that they're useful and necessary and that that's real.
What's your name? Micah.
Mike,
Nice to meet you.
nice to meet you, Micah. So what brings you here today?
Well, I have been engaged for a couple of weeks, and my fiance already has a 2-year-old son, which means that I'm going to be an instant father to a toddler, which raises a few questions for me.
Yeah.
What is a father? Is it something that you are, or is it a role that you can step into like I'm about to?
Yeah, well, I guess you're going to find out the answer to that question, aren't you?
Yes.
Can you become a father? Is that a role you take on? I think it's always a role you take on. Being a father is a relationship, and a relationship is something you have to develop. Any time that you spend with your child one-on-one, teaching them, talking to them, playing with them, listening to them, walking with them, is encouragement, because they need to learn to be adults. And your children need to see you modeling how to be an engaged adult for them. Honest and committed pursuit of a worthwhile goal. That's a good way of thinking about what a father should model. Voluntary adventure, that's another encapsulation of the masculine role. The establishment of a vision, the commitment to its pursuit, resilience in the face of failure, faith in the future, service to your family, your community, protection from the catastrophes of life, and care of the most vulnerable. That's masculinity in a nutshell. That's why the shepherd, for example, in old religious stories, is a model of masculinity. Ancient shepherds, they kept the wolves and the lions at bay and took care of the most vulnerable. And that's what men who are worthy of the name strive for. Don't assume that there's a pathway to being a father, just to have a relationship with the kid. And that'll unfold at its own speed. And that is what happens with fathers anyways. You got to get to know your kid. And you do that by spending time with them. And just because children know less about the world at the experiential level doesn't mean they're not paying attention, and certainly doesn't mean that they're stupid. They're not stupid, and they're watching. And you can talk to them. Now, you have to talk to a 2-year-old about the things that a 2-year-old can understand, but If you have a genuine conversation with them, then you're communicating, and that's just steady all the way through. There's no difference, technically speaking, between being concerned with yourself in the narrow sense, say concerned with your own pleasure, concerned with your own status. There's no difference between that and suffering. The answer to that isn't to stop being self-conscious, because that's not something you can voluntarily control. The answer is to note that meaning in your life is going to be found in adoption of responsibility for other people and responsibility for the future. Shouldering that load makes you productive and useful, but it also provides you with the sustaining meaning that helps you manage yourself even through times of trouble.
In the past couple of months, he's been calling me daddy.
Oh yeah. What do you think of that?
It makes me feel a lot more pressure than I was comfortable with at first.
Yeah.
But even though I did feel the pressure, I also felt the conviction that I'd already decided this was the right thing to do.
Like you said, you had doubts. Do you have, what are your doubts?
I am worried about it being too much at once. I'm worried about feeling invaded and claustrophobic.
Okay. You know, people think, well, I'm taking on this responsibility, I'm sacrificing my freedom. It's like, well, first of all, freedom to do what? To be self-centered and miserable? What, and lonesome? That's all the freedom I want. Self-centered, miserable, and lonesome. It's like, so then you take on the hypothetical responsibility of a child, but the thing is, they pay you. There's data on this too. People who have little kids take more pleasure in the things they do with their little kids than single people do doing the same things. Kids look at the world through fresh eyes. Everything that you do with a little kid is a new thing for the kid, and you get to see that, and that's a really good deal. And you can become a master of those little adventures that you go on with your kids. If you learn to do it right, there won't be anything that you'd rather do, because it's a very rare adult who is as much joy to be with than a child who's well-disciplined and playfully accompanying you. In conclusion, what lessons can you derive from today's discussion? Lessons from motherhood. Hold them close, but let them go. Encourage your children to go out into the world so they become competent and productive and happy and secure, but be confident that when the need arises, they'll come to you for the care that only as their mother you can provide. Don't worship your child. Care for them, love them, but don't turn them into narcissists. Lessons for fatherhood. Become the man your children want to imitate. There's very little that you can do that's more important as a man than to provide the model for responsible, adventurous adulthood to your children. Embrace responsibility, gain purpose. You're giving up what's often nothing more than juvenile hedonism to pursue something of much greater significance, the meaning that you find in the voluntary adoption of responsibility. So I'd like to offer you a sample homework assignment, so to speak. Sit and write a little bit, a couple of paragraphs, about 3 things that your father did particularly well. And do the same with your mother. Write down as well 3 things that you think they might have done better. And then give some thought while you're writing to how you could capitalize on the positive things that your father and your mother taught you, and how you could rectify the things that were less than optimal. I hope that that's helpful in dealing with the problems that arise in the future. My new Daily Wire Plus series, Parenting, brings what I've learned in decades of research and clinical practice to the concerns of real mothers and fathers. Watch Parenting exclusively on Daily Wire, May 25th. Go to dailywireplus.com today to subscribe.
PM. Ariana received a call. It was Heman. And he sounded concerned. He told her that an actress in their show was behaving very strangely these days. She acted normal while while filming her scenes, but she did abnormal things when she was resting. For example, she liked to eat salad with raw chicken blood recently. She loved it so much and ate it every meal. Sometimes, she even ate 2 bowls of it, and after she finished, she looked very satisfied, as if she had gotten enough blood, like a monster. In addition, this actress used to be gentle and sweet, but lately, she had totally changed. She was always cold and easily lost her temper. She seems like a completely different person now. Even Hamish was scared by her creepy eyes, which seemed to almost glow red at times. Therefore, he didn't think it was her real character. He believed that she must be bewitched. After hearing his explanation, Ariana agreed with him, so she rushed to the big city studios. The cast and crew were divided into 2 groups during the filming of The Legend of the Woodland Fairy. One group stayed at Echo Mountain, while the other was at the big city studios. The actress was shooting at the big city studios. After an hour and a half, Ariana arrived there. Barrett was the director at the big city studios. Once he noticed the strange happenings with the actress, he told Hamish, who immediately left Echo Mountain to check on it. After seeing it for himself, he called Ariana. If it was only the actress's personal behavior, Hamish could deal with it, but it was really strange, so he thought it was best to talk to Ariana about it first. When Ariana arrived, they were taking a break from shooting, and Hamish was teaching several actors their blocking for the next scene. As soon as Ariana walked inside, she saw the actress Hamish told her about. Her name was Gemma Rushton. She was also taking a break and sat at the side. At the opening ceremony, Ariana had briefly met her, but she was very normal back then. However, this time, Ariana sensed evil energy emanating from her body, which was concentrated around her chest. Ariana used her jade eyes and saw a black jade pendant hanging from the actress's neck, tucked under her shirt. It was releasing strong evil energy. After that, Ariana walked towards Hamish, who immediately stood up to welcome her, and the other people greeted her with a smile too. Gemma also left her chair and said hi to Ariana, but she seemed a little cold. At her first meeting with Ariana, she had been very polite. Ariana didn't care much about her attitude, but she noticed the difference. Miss Rushton, can we have a private talk? Asked Ariana. Sure, Gemma agreed. She guessed that Ariana might want to talk with her about her strange behavior these days. Although she didn't think it was a big deal, she knew many staff in the crew thought that she was being abnormal. She even had arguments with the other actors about it, but she still didn't think she was acting that strange, and she didn't like their criticisms. Other people also immediately guessed why Ariana wanted to have a private chat with Gemma. Although she had suddenly started acting strangely, she didn't hurt them, but she looked extremely creepy every time they saw her, so they hoped that she could go back to normal. After Gemma and Ariana were away from the crowd, Ariana didn't bother to beat around the bush. She asked outright, Miss Rushton, why did you suddenly get interested in eating salad with raw chicken blood? I just fell in love with it all of a sudden. You know, lots of countries around the world eat chicken blood, and it's very common. Miss Young, do you have a bias against me just because of a dish? Asked Gemma. Of course not. It's your right to eat whatever you like. But Miss Rushton, can you tell me why you suddenly fell in love with salad with raw chicken blood? Asked Ariana. Gemma panicked a little before she forced herself to calm down and replied, I ate it with my friend while we were on vacation. She ordered that dish and said it's good for my skin. I was forced to have a taste. Then I fell in love with it. Ariana sighed. Miss Rushton, although it has nothing to do with me, you're an employee of mine now. I need to deal with any problems on set for the sake of this company's reputation. Gemma was a little displeased. In her eyes, Ariana hadn't noticed anything abnormal herself. Rather, she was just listening to the other people in the crew who disliked her habit of eating salad with raw chicken blood. Miss Young, can't I choose what to eat? She pointed out. Miss Rushton, it's not about the food. Are you deliberately keeping something a secret from me, or do you really have no idea about it? Ariana inquired, watching Gemma. It seemed that she had already seen through her. Gemma was slightly scared and immediately avoided Ariana's eyes. I don't know what you're talking about, she insisted, playing dumb. No matter what Ariana said or knew, she wouldn't admit it now. Nevertheless, her reaction betrayed her. She was lying, or perhaps she didn't think it was a big deal. If you refuse to admit it, I'll just point it out. Who gave you the black jade pendant you're wearing? Who told you to eat raw chicken blood? You're not in love with it. You're addicted to it. You'll be sick if you stop eating it, right? Stated Ariana. Gemma was shocked and instinctively covered the black jade pendant on her chest. She lowered her head and gave it a glance, then looked at Ariana in astonishment. How did Ariana know that she was wearing a black jade pendant? She wore it under her clothing. Other people shouldn't be able to see it. However, she realized that she shouldn't have touched the pendant, but it was too late. She wanted to say something, but didn't know what to say. Will you give up the rest of your life just for several years of beauty? Ariana asked with a pointed smile. No, Gemma denied it at once. She wanted to stay beautiful, but was unwilling to die young. No, but that's what you're doing right now, Ariana pointed out. Gemma rounded her eyes in horror. She didn't think Ariana was speaking nonsense, but she didn't know about the consequences that Ariana just told her about. It's not a problem that you like salad with raw chicken blood. You can eat whatever you want. However, this jade pendant is the problem. It's an evil thing, and the raw chicken blood you're eating actually isn't going into your stomach. It is being absorbed by this pendant. The jade pendant can keep you beautiful, but only for several years at most. It's also possible that you'll die in a year or two, revealed Ariana. She had no right to interfere in Gemma's personal decisions, but she had to deal with this evil pendant since Gemma was working for the company now. She could either help Gemma get rid of it, and she could continue to do her work, or Ariana would replace her. Upon hearing that, Gemma was scared. If she could really die in a year or two, she wouldn't wear this jade pendant any longer. Therefore, she immediately pulled it off and dumped it on the ground. Looking at the jade pendant, she was terrified. Afterwards, she stammered, Is that true? Although she wasn't sure whether Ariana told the truth, she was indeed frightened. Of course, just don't ask me how I know. There are a lot of things in this world that can't be explained by science, like what you have experienced. After wearing this black jade pendant and drinking raw chicken blood, you can become beautiful, right? Said Ariana. Gemma indeed had experienced that. After she put on this black jade pendant and drank raw chicken blood, her face indeed changed slightly to be more attractive, which couldn't be explained by science. She loved becoming prettier, but in the end, she chose to believe Ariana instead of the person who gave her the black jade pendant. If she was being honest with herself, even she had to admit she became weird after wearing it. She started to lose her temper easily and even lose control of herself. Sometimes, she was even scared of herself when she looked at her cold and creepy eyes in the mirror. Besides, she had tons of nightmares lately. In the dreams, she was chased by monsters and ghosts. She had to run and run all the time, which was absolute torture, but in order to keep her beauty, she lived with it. However, after hearing Ariana's words, she couldn't stand it any longer. Will I be fine as long as I stop wearing this black jade pendant and drinking raw chicken blood? Asked Gemma with anticipation. No, you must return the pendant to the person who gave it to you, claimed Ariana. Actually, it wasn't necessary, but Ariana wanted to know who the person was. It couldn't be an ordinary person, so she guessed that it was highly likely that it was an evil immortal. But what if he doesn't want it back? Asked Gemma, feeling that it might be difficult. Most importantly, the man was very scary, and she didn't dare to see him again. If you need help, I can help you, but you must take me to see the person. If not, you can make the decision on your own, replied Ariana. I need your help, Gemma admitted at once. Then she begged, Miss Young, please help me out. I don't want to die. I want to live. I won't use these creepy things to achieve anything again. I'll rely on myself to have a better future. Miss Young, please help me. Gemma begged Ariana and even cried. She felt very scared about the situation she was in. Since Ariana seemed to know everything, Gemma believed that she could help her. Okay, I'll help you, but you need to listen to me, Ariana agreed. She would gladly help Gemma, and she wouldn't expect anything for it. After all, she considered it her duty to capture evil immortals. No problem. I'll listen to you, Gemma promised at once, in case Ariana changed her mind. Tell me who gave you this black jade pendant, ordered Ariana. Actually, I'm not very familiar with him. A friend of mine introduced him to me, but we've only eaten together 2 or 3 times. He's about 40 years old. I don't know his real name, but my friend called him Kai. He looks a little creepy, and when he looked at me, I felt a little scared, Gemma admitted, then continued.